There's a moment in life when you finally realize something dark about people. The ones who hurt you the most weren't your enemies. They were the people you trusted. The ones who smiled at your face. The ones you protected. The ones you defended when others spoke against them. And one day, without warning, they turned. They betrayed you. They used you. They walked away the moment they got what they needed. And you stood there wondering how you didn't see it coming. That's the moment most people break. They become bitter, suspicious, cold in the wrong way. They start treating the whole world like a threat. And slowly they lose themselves trying to protect themselves. But there's another kind of person. A person who takes that same pain and turns it into power. A person who studies what happened. Who learns the patterns. Who rebuilds their mind so completely that nothing can ever touch them again. Not betrayal, not manipulation, not insults, not loss, not even the cruelty of people who used to be close. That person becomes mentally untouchable. And here's what nobody tells you. Mental untouchability is not a personality trait. It's not luck. It's not arrogance. It's a set of ruthless habits, quiet, calculated, almost invisible, that slowly turn you into someone the world cannot break. Machiavelli once wrote, "He who wishes to be obeyed must know how to command." And the first thing a powerful person must command is their own mind. Today you'll discover 9 of those habits. 9 ruthless mental disciplines that separate the unshakable from the easily destroyed. 9 quiet weapons that powerful people have used for centuries to walk through betrayal, chaos, and manipulation without losing a single piece of themselves. But before we begin, I want to be clear. This knowledge is for protection, not destruction. Use it to defend yourself, to build your inner fortress, not to hurt people who don't deserve it. The goal isn't to become cruel. The goal is to become impossible to break. Drop this affirmation in the comments before we start. My mind is my fortress. Now let's begin. Habit 1. They kill their need to be understood. The first habit of the mentally untouchable is brutal in its simplicity. They stop trying to be understood. Most people spend their entire lives explaining themselves. They explain their choices. They explain their silence. They explain their absence. They explain their boundaries. They explain why they cut someone off. They explain why they didn't reply. They explain why they're not who people think they are. And the more they explain, the smaller they become. Machiavelli once said, "Men in general judge more by their eyes than by their hands." Everyone sees what you appear to be. Few experience what you really are. Read that again slowly. Everyone sees. Few experience. That means most people will never truly know you. And the painful truth is, they don't want to. People don't want the real you. They want the version of you that fits their assumptions. The version that's convenient. The version that's easy to label. So when you keep explaining yourself, you're not creating understanding. You're feeding their illusion. Think about it this way. Imagine 2 people. One spends hours defending themselves on social media, replying to every comment, answering every accusation. The other says nothing. Just keeps moving, keeps building, keeps winning. Who looks stronger? The silent one. Always. Because explaining yourself is a quiet form of begging. You're begging people to believe you. You're begging for their approval. You're begging to be seen accurately. And powerful people never beg. When you stop explaining, something shifts inside you. You stop needing other people's permission to be who you are. You stop chasing the impossible, the approval of people who already made up their minds. You start saving your energy for the things that actually matter. This is what mentally untouchable people understand. The right people will figure you out without explanation. The wrong people will misunderstand you no matter how much you explain. So why waste your breath? Practice this. Next time someone misjudges you, don't rush to correct them. Let them think what they want. Watch what happens. At first, it feels uncomfortable. Your ego wants to defend itself. But over time, that discomfort becomes power. Because you finally understand, your peace was never meant to depend on people who don't understand you. Habit 2. They refuse to react in real time. The O. Mentally untouchable have mastered a single skill that most people will never learn. They never react in the moment. Watch ordinary people closely. The moment something happens, a rude comment, a betrayal, a disappointment, their face changes. Their voice changes. Their entire body tells the story. And the person who provoked them now knows exactly which buttons work. You just handed them a map to your mind. Machiavelli understood this dynamic perfectly. It is necessary for a prince in order to maintain himself, to learn how not to be good. And one of the deepest forms of not being good is refusing to give people the emotional reaction they came for. Here's a hard truth. Many people in your life are not trying to communicate with you. They're trying to extract a reaction from you. They want to see if they can shake you, if they can make you angry, if they can make you sad, if they can make you defensive. Because the moment you react, they win. They've proven they have access to your nervous system. The mentally untouchable refuse to give them that access. This doesn't mean you become a robot. It means you create space between what happens and how you respond. Even 5 seconds. Even one breath. That tiny pause is where your power lives. In that pause, you stop being predictable. You stop being controllable. You stop being a puppet whose strings can be pulled by anyone with the right words. Imagine someone insults you in front of others. The ordinary person reacts immediately. Their face flushes. Their voice rises. They defend themselves, and the room sees their wound. The mentally untouchable person does something different. They pause. They look at the person calmly. Maybe they smile slightly. Maybe they say nothing. And in that silence, something strange happens. The energy shifts. The insulter starts feeling foolish. The room starts respecting the calm one. This is the dark art of strategic non-reaction. Practice it in small moments first. Someone cuts you off in traffic. Don't react. Someone says something passive-aggressive. Don't react. Someone tests you in conversation. Don't react. Train your nervous system to stop responding to every stimulus. Train your face to stay neutral. Train your voice to stay steady. Over time, something powerful develops. You stop being emotionally available to people who haven't earned access to your emotions. Your reactions become rare, and because they're rare, they become valuable. When you finally do respond, people listen because they know it means something. The mentally untouchable do not perform emotions for others. They feel them privately, process them silently, and respond strategically. That's not coldness. That's discipline. And in a world full of reactive, emotional, easily provoked people, discipline is dominance. Habit 3. They starve people of information. The third habit is one of the most underrated weapons in psychological power. The mentally untouchable share almost nothing, not because they're hiding something, not because they're paranoid, but because they understand a truth most people never learn. Information is currency, and most people spend it like it's worthless. Machiavelli wrote, "The first method for estimating the intelligence of a ruler is to look at the men he has around him." But there's a deeper layer. The intelligence of a person is also measured by what they choose not to say. Watch ordinary people in conversation. They tell you their plans before they execute them. They tell you their dreams before they build them. They tell you their problems before they solve them. They tell you their weaknesses before anyone asks. They give away pieces of themselves freely, then wonder why those pieces are used against them later. Every detail you share about yourself is a potential weapon in someone else's hands. Your goals, your fears, your insecurities, your relationships, your finances, your past mistakes, your future plans. Each one becomes leverage the moment someone with bad intentions hears it. And the painful reality is, you don't always know who has bad intentions until it's too late. The mentally untouchable understand this deeply. So they speak less, listen more, and reveal almost nothing without strategic reason. Imagine two people starting a new job. The first one tells everyone everything. Their salary expectations, their past conflicts at the old job, their plans to move up, their personal struggles, their opinions about coworkers. Within weeks, all of that information has traveled, twisted, and returned to hurt them. The second person says little. They smile. They listen. They observe. They learn who talks too much, who plays politics, who genuinely deserves trust. And by the time they need to make a move, they have all the information. And no one has anything to use against them. Which one would you rather be? Here's the principle. The less people know about you, the less they can manipulate you. The less they know about your plans, the less they can sabotage you. The less they know about your weaknesses, the less they can exploit you. This isn't paranoia. This is strategic silence. Start practicing the discipline of selective disclosure. Before you share something, ask yourself one question. Does this person need this information, or am I just filling silence? Most of the time, you'll realize you are about to give away something valuable for nothing. Mystery isn't manipulation, it's protection. And in a world where everyone shares everything, the person who shares strategically becomes magnetic, respected, and impossible to read. Habit 4. They detach from outcomes. The fourth ruthless habit is one of the hardest to develop but the most freeing. The mentally untouchable detach from outcomes. Most people are slaves to results. They're attached to winning, attached to being right, attached to being chosen, attached to being loved, attached to having things go their way. And this attachment becomes the leash that anyone can pull. Machiavelli wrote, "Since love and fear can hardly exist together, if we must choose between them, it is far safer to be feared than loved." But there's something even safer than being feared. It's being free. Free from needing anything badly enough that someone else can use it against you. Think about negotiations. The person who needs the deal always loses. The person who can walk away always wins. This isn't just business, it's life. The person who needs the relationship gets treated worse. The person who needs the approval gets denied it. The person who needs the validation gets played. Need is weakness. Detachment is power. This doesn't mean you stop caring. It means you stop being desperate. You can want something deeply and still be willing to lose it. That paradox is where untouchability lives. Imagine two people pursuing the same opportunity. The first one is desperate. They show it in their eyes, their voice, their willingness to compromise their standards. The other person is interested but not attached. They show up calm. They negotiate from strength. They're willing to walk away if it doesn't serve them. Who do you think wins? The detached one. Every time. This applies everywhere. To relationships, to careers, to friendships, to family. The moment you become emotionally dependent on a specific outcome, you become controllable. The moment you accept that you'll be okay no matter what happens, you become free. The mentally untouchable have practiced this so deeply that nothing can destabilize them. They lose a relationship and grieve, but they don't break. They lose a job and adapt, but they don't collapse. They lose a friend and feel it, but they don't beg. Because deep inside, they know something most people don't. Their identity doesn't depend on circumstances. Their peace doesn't depend on outcomes. Their power doesn't depend on anyone else's decisions. Practice detachment slowly. Start small. Stop being attached to winning every argument. Stop being attached to being liked by everyone. Stop being attached to having your plans work out exactly the way you imagined. Each time you let go of an attachment, you reclaim a piece of your power. The most dangerous person in any room is the one who has nothing to lose. But the most untouchable person in any room is the one who has everything to gain and would still be okay with losing it. Habit 5. They study people like a science. The mentally untouchable have a habit that most people would call cold. They study people the way scientists study specimens, not with cruelty, not with hatred, with clinical curiosity. They watch how people behave under pressure. They watch what people say versus what they do. They watch how people treat those who can't help them. They watch the small details, the micro-expressions, the inconsistencies, the patterns that reveal character. Machiavelli said, "Men are so simple of mind and so much dominated by their immediate needs that a deceitful man will always find plenty who are ready to be deceived." And the only protection against deception is observation. Most people listen to words. The mentally untouchable watch behavior. Words are cheap. Anyone can say anything. People will tell you they love you while planning to betray you. They'll tell you they're loyal while talking behind your back. They'll tell you they care while quietly hoping you fail. Words are the easiest thing in the world to fake. Behavior is not. Imagine you have a friend who always says the right things but somehow always disappears when you need them. Who always promises support but never shows up. Who always claims to be happy for you but flinches when you win. The ordinary person listens to the words and feels confused. The mentally untouchable person watches the pattern and understands. They don't need to confront anyone. They don't need to argue. They just quietly adjust the access that person has to their life. This is the discipline of observation over emotion. You stop being swayed by what people say and start being informed by what they do. You stop falling for performances and start trusting patterns. The most dangerous people in your life are usually the most charming. They've learned to perform exactly what you want to see, But behavior over time always tells the truth. The person who's too good to be true usually is. The person who showers you with attention too quickly usually has a hidden agenda. The person who always seems to have a story about how others wronged them is usually the common factor. Train yourself to observe. Stop being lazy with people. Watch how they treat waiters. Watch how they speak about absent friends. Watch how they handle small disappointments. Watch how they react when you set a boundary. Watch how they behave when they think no one is watching. These tiny moments tell you everything. The mentally untouchable don't trust easily, not because they're paranoid, but because they understand that trust without observation is just hope. And hope is not a strategy. You don't have to confront people about what you observe. You don't have to expose them. You just have to adjust, slowly, quietly, strategically. Some people lose access. Some people get less of you. Some people get cut off entirely, and they often don't even understand why. That's the silent power of being a student of human nature. You can read the room when others are still reading the script. Habit 6. They build an inner world stronger than the outer one. The sixth habit is the foundation that makes all the others possible. The mentally untouchable build an inner world that's stronger than anything happening outside them. Most people live the other way around. Their inner world is fragile, scattered, dependent on the outer world for stability. If the outside is calm, they feel calm. If the outside is chaotic, they feel chaotic. They have no inner anchor, so every storm shakes them. Every criticism wounds them. Every disappointment destabilizes them. Machiavelli wrote, "It is much more secure to be feared than to be loved," because love is preserved by the link of obligation which, owing to the baseness of men, is broken at every opportunity for their advantage. In other words, the outside world is unreliable. People will let you down. Circumstances will turn against you. Plans will fall apart. The only thing you can rely on is what you've built inside yourself. The mentally untouchable spend serious time developing this inner world. They read, they think, they reflect. They build philosophies they actually live by. They develop a relationship with themselves that doesn't require validation from anyone else. They become their own best friend, their own toughest coach, their own most honest critic. And when the outer world collapses, they don't. Imagine a man who's lost his job, his relationship, and his reputation in the same month. The ordinary person breaks. They become depressed, bitter, lost, because their identity was outside themselves, and now there's nothing left. The mentally untouchable man feels the pain, deeply, honestly, but he doesn't break. Because his identity was never in the job, the relationship, or the reputation. It was in something deeper, his values, his discipline, his relationship with himself. The world took the external pieces, but the core remains untouched. That core is what you need to build. Start with solitude, not loneliness and solitude. Spend time alone, intentionally, without your phone, without distractions. Sit with yourself, learn who you are without anyone's input. Develop opinions that aren't borrowed. Build standards that aren't inherited. Create a vision for your life that isn't a reflection of someone else's expectations. Develop principles you would die for. Define what you will and won't do, no matter the cost. Build a private mental space where you can retreat when the world becomes loud. A space where your identity is so clear, so solid that nothing external can shake it. The mentally untouchable carry this inner fortress with them everywhere. In conversations, in conflicts, in crises, they never lose themselves because they always know exactly who they are. That's the deepest form of power. Not power over others. Power over yourself. When you build this inner world, something amazing happens. People feel it. They sense that you're rooted in something they can't see. They can't intimidate you because you're not standing on their ground. You're standing on your own. Habit 7. They cut without explanation. The seventh ruthless habit is one most people are too afraid to practice. The mentally untouchable cut people off without explanation. Most people stay trapped in toxic relationships for years because they feel obligated to justify their distance. They want to give one more chance. They want to have one more conversation. They want to make sure the other person understands why. And in the process, they keep bleeding emotionally while the toxic person keeps draining them. Machiavelli wrote, "Whoever desires to found a state and give it laws must start with assuming that all men are bad and ever ready to display their vicious nature." That sounds harsh, but the point is simple. You cannot save everyone. And you don't owe every relationship an explanation for why you're stepping back. Here's the truth most people refuse to accept. Some people are not meant to stay in your life. Some friendships have an expiration date. Some family relationships need distance. Some bonds were never bonds, they were just habit. And when you finally see it clearly, you don't owe anyone a 30-minute speech about why you're leaving. The mentally untouchable understand a hard rule. People who consistently disrespect you have already received all the explanation they deserve through your past patience. They've been told 100 times through your tolerance. They knew, they just didn't care. So when the cut comes, it's silent, sudden, final. Imagine someone who has crossed your boundaries dozens of times. Each time you explained, you gave warnings, you showed your discomfort, and each time they brushed it off, made excuses, or quietly continued the behavior. The ordinary person keeps explaining, hoping that one more conversation will create change. The mentally untouchable person stops responding, stops engaging, stops giving access, without a goodbye speech, without a dramatic confrontation, without giving them the satisfaction of one final argument. This is what disturbs manipulative people the most. They thrive on emotional engagement, even negative engagement. A dramatic ending gives them content, energy, drama to feed on, but silent removal gives them nothing. No final fight, no closure, no chance to reframe the story, just absence. And absence, and chosen consciously, executed quietly, is one of the most powerful messages a human being can send. This doesn't mean you become cruel. You don't have to insult anyone. You don't have to make scenes. You just stop showing up. Stop replying as often. Stop being available. Stop offering pieces of yourself. The distance grows naturally, and eventually, the relationship dissolves without explosion. Some people will be confused. Some will try to pull you back. Some will spread stories about you. Let them. Their narrative about you is none of your business. Your piece is, remember this: the mentally untouchable don't fight for people who have already shown them who they are. They don't beg for respect. They don't argue for value. They simply remove access, quietly, permanently, without apology. Habit 8. They master the art of delayed gratification. The 8th habit separates the mentally untouchable from everyone else more than any other. They've mastered the art of waiting. Most people are slaves to immediate gratification. They want results now. They want recognition now. They want revenge now. They want comfort now. And because they can't wait, they make impulsive decisions that destroy long-term outcomes for short-term feelings. Machiavelli understood this deeply. Never attempt to win by force what can be won by deception. Translation: the smart play is rarely the fast play. Power, real power, requires patience that most people don't have. The mentally untouchable can wait. They can wait years to make a single strategic move. They can wait silently while others mock them, doubt them, dismiss them. They can wait while opportunities ripen, while enemies expose themselves, while patterns reveal the truth. And then, when the moment is exactly right, they move. This is the difference between reactive people and strategic people. Reactive people respond instantly to every stimulus. Strategic people wait for the right moment, and the right moment is almost never the first moment. Think about someone who's been disrespected at work. The reactive person confronts immediately, loses their composure, often ends up looking like the problem. The strategic person says nothing, watches, documents, waits, builds their position, and when the time is right, the situation resolves itself in their favor, often without them having to lift a finger. Patience is not passivity. It's positioning. The mentally untouchable understand that everything in life follows a rhythm. There are moments to act and moments to wait. Most people don't know the difference. They act when they should wait, and they wait when they should act. The mentally untouchable have trained themselves to read timing. Practice this in small ways. When you want to send an angry text, wait 24 hours. When you want to make a quick financial decision, wait 3 days. When you want revenge, wait until you don't want it anymore, and you'll usually realize you didn't really need it. When you want to argue, wait until the emotion fades and ask yourself if the argument is still worth having. Most of the time, waiting reveals that the urge wasn't real. It was just emotion. And emotion, left unchecked, makes terrible decisions on your behalf. The mentally untouchable also understand delayed gratification in building themselves. They invest in skills that won't pay off for years. They build habits that won't show results for months. They read books that won't help them today but will shape them 10 years from now. They're playing the long game while everyone else is chasing dopamine hits. This is why the mentally untouchable end up dominating in the long run, while reactive people are exhausted from chasing every shiny thing. The patient ones have quietly built empires of skill, character, and inner strength. They didn't need to win every battle. They just needed to win the war. The person who can wait, really wait, calmly and confidently, becomes uncontrollable. Because anyone who tries to pressure them into rushed decisions discovers there's no pressure that works. The mentally untouchable move on their own timeline, by their own logic, for their own reasons. Habit 9. They make peace with being alone. The final ruthless habit is the foundation of all true power. The mentally untouchable have made peace with being alone, not lonely, not isolated, not antisocial, but genuinely at peace with their own company, comfortable in solitude, capable of being alone without needing distraction, validation, or external noise. This is rarer than people realize. Most human beings cannot sit alone with themselves for 30 minutes without reaching for their phone. They cannot eat alone in a restaurant without feeling self-conscious. They cannot spend an evening at home without scrolling, texting, calling, watching, anything to avoid the silence of their own existence. This dependence on company makes them weak. Because anyone who can offer them company can also control them. Anyone who threatens to take it away holds power over them. The fear of being alone makes people accept relationships they should leave, jobs they should quit, environments they should escape. Machiavelli wrote, "It is better to be alone than in bad company." But the mentally untouchable take it further. They're not just willing to be alone. They've come to genuinely enjoy it. Solitude is where they sharpen themselves, where they think clearly, where they make their best decisions, where they reconnect with who they actually are, beneath the noise of other people's expectations. In solitude, they remember their values. They process their experiences. They plan their next moves. They become themselves. Imagine someone who's afraid to be alone. Their entire life becomes a search for distraction. They jump from one relationship to the next. They keep their schedule packed with social events. They surround themselves with people who don't even matter, just to avoid silence. And in the process, they never become anyone. They just become a reflection of whoever they're around. Now imagine someone who's at peace alone. They choose their company carefully because they don't need any company at all. They walk away from bad relationships without panic, because solitude is not a punishment to them. They make decisions from clarity, not desperation. They develop a self that's actually theirs. This is the deepest form of untouchability. When you stop being afraid of being alone, no one can use loneliness as leverage against you. No one can threaten you with abandonment. No one can keep you trapped by being the only company you have. You become free. And freedom is the most threatening thing a person can become to those who wanted to control them. Practice solitude intentionally. Spend time alone without your phone. Take walks by yourself. Eat meals without distraction. Sit in silence and let your thoughts surface. At first, it will be uncomfortable. The silence will feel loud. Your own mind will seem chaotic. But over time, the noise quiets. Clarity emerges. You meet yourself for the first time. And once you've met yourself, really met yourself, you stop being a stranger in your own life. You become rooted in someone the world cannot take from you. You, the mentally untouchable life. You've just learned the 9 ruthless habits that separate the mentally untouchable from everyone else. But knowledge without practice is nothing. Pick one habit, just one, the one that hit you the hardest. The one that made something inside you say, yes, I need this. For the next 30 days, practice only that one. Don't try to master all 9 at once. That's how people fail. They try to change everything and end up changing nothing. One habit. 30 days. Done. Then, when that one becomes automatic, take on the next one. And the next. Slowly, quietly, without telling anyone what you're doing. Let people notice the change in you without ever explaining it. That itself is the first habit in action. But remember what we said at the beginning. This power is for protection, not destruction. The goal isn't to become cold. It's to become unbreakable. The goal isn't to manipulate others. It's to stop being manipulated yourself. The goal isn't to dominate the world. It's to stop letting the world dominate you. The truly mentally untouchable person is not cruel. They are calm, clear, quietly powerful. They walk through life unafraid because they've built themselves to survive anything. They protect their peace without apology. They give access to their lives carefully. They observe more than they speak. They feel deeply but react strategically. They love selectively. They cut decisively. They wait patiently. They stand alone confidently. That is the person you're becoming. The world will not always be kind to you. People will betray you. Plans will fall apart. The ones you trusted will sometimes turn into the ones you can't trust. That's not a failure of life. That's just life. The only question is, why? Will you let it break you or will you let it forge you? The mentally untouchable choose to be forged. Every wound becomes wisdom. Every betrayal becomes a lesson. Every disappointment becomes data. Nothing is wasted. Nothing destroys them. Because they've decided deep inside that they will not be broken by a world that has broken millions of others. They will be one of the few who walks through it untouched. If this video gave you something real, hit that like button. If you want more content that builds you into a stronger, sharper, harder to break version of yourself, subscribe and turn on the notification bell. Drop a comment with the number of the habit you're going to practice first, and tell me which one resonated with you the most. And before you go, leave this affirmation in the comments. I am becoming mentally untouchable. Stay sharp. Stay silent when it matters. Stay grounded. And never forget, the strongest people in the world are not the loudest. They're the ones nothing can move. Until next time.